All right, thank you. I'm a wanderer, so I'm going to use the portable mic here. Excuse me. Yes, that was very emotional. I want to thank Ethan's family for being here. I want to thank Amy and Pete for dedicating this to Ethan. I shared with Corey, Ethan's dad, beforehand. I'm the president of our local hockey association in Grand Rapids, and we hosted the Bantam 2A state hockey tournament this year. And of course, it was Moorhead that won the state championship. While I was watching them win the state championship, I had a moment during a break of some sort, timeout, whether or in between periods, where I pulled up my phone and I pulled up Facebook. And that's where I learned the story of Ethan. He had just passed away. It is tragic and emotional, and I can't imagine what the family is going through. So thank you once again for being here. So now I'll talk a little bit about my journey. I am a survivor. I'm a survivor of 3 open heart surgeries. I also had an aortic dissection. And that happened back in 2019, October 23rd, to be exact. I was actually at our restaurant that we owned in Grand Rapids, and I was loading my 2 children that are actually here, 2 of them that are here, into our truck, or my truck. And I decided to go back into the restaurant and say goodbye to my wife. And as soon as I grabbed the door handle, it felt like somebody cut my chest with a dull knife. I got into the restaurant and I collapsed on the floor. Fortunately, the ambulance garage was less than half a mile away. And our local hospital was less than 5 miles away. Because if it wasn't for that timing, I wouldn't be here. I'm one of the lucky ones. They loaded me up in a helicopter and flew me to Duluth. After much fighting, I will say, I later learned that they didn't want to send the helicopter because they didn't think I'd survive. And the doctors that were there that day, the surgeon, the ER doc, and another doctor that was actually a friend of mine. I coached him in cross-country skiing many, many years ago. And if it wasn't for all 3 of them being here, I wouldn't be here today. They all specialize in something different when it came to cardiac. And they actually ended up giving me kind of like an ongoing blood transfusion, like an oil change, active oil change. It's the only reason why I survived. They actually put a drain in my heart, and it worked. So 15 minutes later, I was in the surgery room, which the bypass machine was actually ran by a kid I coached in football. So crazy connections. So during my surgery, so I dissected. I had an ascending dissection right at the aortic root. My aortic valve actually ripped in half. So they had to replace my aortic sleeve and put in a mechanical valve, which is actually made right down in Minneapolis at Boston Scientific, where I have a friend who works. The surgery was 11 hours, and I was hooked up to all sorts of machines, and I have some pictures of that here in a couple of slides. And when I woke up, so this is my second time speaking. I spoke down at the event in Minneapolis, and I was planning on coming here anyway, and Amy reached out and said, "Hey, you want to talk again?" I said, "Absolutely, of course, I'd love to." 2 of my really good friends came and saw me, and I was on so many drugs, and I was so hot that I was a little bit loopy. And all I would let them put on me is a little towel. Otherwise, I was completely stark naked. And I said, "This is my loincloth." I vividly remember that. So it was pretty funny. So after all that happened, everything was good. They had a couple benefits for me in town. I vividly remember people saying, you know, it's nice to go to a benefit where we know the person is alive and is going to live. A couple days after my benefit, I actually got really, really sick with what they call an upper respiratory infection. And if you remember, back in 2019 and 2020, there was an event that happened. They say that the first cases of COVID were not in this country until 2020, and I'm convinced that is not true, because I had every symptom of it. And one night my heart was beating so fast that I was going to go into the ER, and I didn't. Next day I contacted the doctor when everything settled down, and from there everything went downhill from December all the way to February. So I had a bypass during my first surgery. So when they went in for my second open heart surgery, they found that bypass had actually failed. So the artery that they used to bypass stopped working and started spitting clots around my heart. The old artery actually started working again for whatever reason. And then 2 weeks later, I got what's called compartment syndrome in my left arm. I had a artery tear in half in the middle of the night. It was extremely painful, and I was unable to move my left arm for about 6 weeks. In fact, they were more worried about my arm than they were about my heart after that surgery. I was pretty close to losing it. And all of my complications that happened in February were a direct result of my surgery and the trauma I went through. Everything was great. My mechanical valve was clicking into my ear every day. I was tracking my warfarin. I actually just had received in January of 2023 my at-home INR monitor. So I could monitor my INR myself every week at home, which was awesome. And then in April, I got sick. And I got a fever. I got chills. I actually ended up going to the doctor. I went to a doctor that wasn't my normal doctor, wasn't my cardiologist. I thought I had the flu. He thought I had the flu. They sent me home. I went to the emergency room. They did a bunch of tests. They thought there might be some complications. Make an appointment with your cardiologist the next day. They sent me home. I went to see my cardiologist the next day, and she went, "What do you mean they sent you home? You need to be here in Duluth now." She could tell just by looking at me. That part was my fault. I should have been more diligent. I should have followed up. But if you've heard, I asked a question earlier about, have you ever had anybody that's had an infection where it affected their mechanical valve and had it replaced with cadaver parts? That's because that's exactly what happened to me. Almost a year ago to the day. Today, 1 year ago today, I was being transported from Duluth down to Abbott Northwestern to have my, what they call redo surgery. So that one was 20 hours. That was a beast. They expected it to be about 9 hours. They expected the cleanup of my chest from scar tissue to take about 2 hours. That took over 11. They said it was the stickiest chest they'd ever seen. And then after they got everything unstuck, and actually at one point in time, it was so, basically I had a surgical PA tell me, when they go in there after open heart surgery of a couple years, it's like hamburger in there. You can't tell what part is what part. They actually pulled one of my arteries out of my heart and the surgeon had to massage my heart in order to get it going again. So after that was all said and done, I think by my calculations, I've died 6 times. This is what I looked like after my first open heart surgery. So you can see all the machines hooked up, the tube down my throat. That was quite the event. I remember when I started to wake up, I could feel the tube in my throat, and the nurse was, it was a Thursday night, and the Minnesota Vikings were playing on Thursday, and she had the radio up to my ear so I could listen to the game like I even knew what was going on. But once I started to come to, I was like, oh, hey, here we go, the Vikings. That's what I was thinking in my mind. Well, she took the radio off, and she said, just 1 more hour. And she put the radio back to my ear, and it was right around the end of the 3rd quarter. So I knew once the game was over, I was getting that tube out. So this is the picture of the compartment syndrome. That's what my arm looked like for 6 weeks. Just another battle scar in the many different scars that I have all over my body. This was my first round of cardiac rehab. So my cardiac rehab people, thank you. I like to tell this story because, so this is in Duluth. This is at Essentia in St. Mary's in Duluth. I look annoyed because my dad was there. My dad had 4 heart attacks in his life. He spent 2 tours in Vietnam and had Agent Orange dumped all over him and had many, many complications. He had spent a few days, actually I should say many days, on this same wing at St. Mary's. And at this time, he walked with a walker because he had 2 hips replaced, a knee replaced, and in failing health. And he zoomed around me for this picture. And when I say zoom, he made the noise too, with his walker so he could get a picture of his son using his walker. And there is, I wish I would have included it, but there's a really good picture of us at the arena using our walkers together. And it's a pretty cute picture. Try not to get emotional here. Try not to get emotional. I often ask the question, why do I do this? Why do I come here? Why do I speak? Why do I do this? A big part of it is because there's a lot of people that, number one, either can't speak or choose not to speak or they do not feel comfortable speaking about it. I feel really comfortable. It's very healing for me. This event back in February in Minneapolis, and this event now has been very, very good for me. It heals my mental side of things. This is my family. This was before I was going to be shipped down to Abbott for my last surgery. This was me about a year ago. And as you can see, there's no color in that face. That was what I looked like for months after my second surgery. There's a lot of people that saw me in October and then saw me again in December and were like, wow, you look way better right now. The picture on the left here is after my surgery. You can see there's a thick pad there. I was actually still open. They kept me open for 4 days after that surgery because they had to go back in and either fix things or repair things. And, you know, some of the doctors that are here maybe has seen some of this stuff and, you know, probably could speak in better terms than I could. But like Amy said earlier, don't Google your symptoms. I can Google how many people have had an aortic dissection, had their aortic valve rip, have fake parts put in, have their bypass fail, have a second open heart surgery, get an infection, have everything taken back out and having cadaver parts put back in. And I might as well look in the mirror because I don't think there's anybody else. So it's been a pretty crazy journey so far, and the journey's not over either. I mean, if I sat here and told you that I still don't have complications, I'd be lying. I mean, every day is a little bit different. The things that I'm fortunate for as to why I survived. These are just a few pictures of my family. Like I said, I've got 4 girls. One's a senior. She's graduating this year. One's a junior. And then I've got my 2 littles here as well. All 4 of them play hockey. They're all really good athletes. They're all really good kids. And all of these pictures are since my first surgery. And some of them are since my 3rd surgery. So you'll notice there's a girl playing football there. That's my daughter. She played football her senior year. And she was the first female to score a point for Grand Rapids football. I coached with the coaches that are coaching currently, and I coached football for many, many years. This was my influence for her to do this. She also was selected as the first female by the Minnesota Coaches Association in the state of Minnesota as academic academic all-state. So I put this up here for a few reasons. I did this in Minneapolis, and I'll do it again. This is the time that you take out your phones and put this information in if you want to. I know you have it. There's a lot of things that have gone on with me that I like to share. There's lots more. There is tons more. I could talk for an hour and a half if you wanted me to. But please email me, call me, text me, whatever you need to do for you survivors and for the people that support the survivors. You know, Amy comes up here and talks about Pete, and I'm sure Pete can attest to this too. Our advocates are wonderful. You guys are the people that go through it all. I mean, have I been through it? Yes. But you guys are the ones that are talking to the doctors when we're not awake. You guys are the ones that are supporting the family from afar, things like that. So it's very important. There's a lot that I can learn from a lot of people too. So I love talking to anybody about this. And if you have any questions, I've kind of mentored a few people through open heart surgeries and things like that. And not to say that I have every answer, but I'm always searching and asking questions and, you know, researching foods. Like, I don't do recipes. I eat differently because, you know, I'm supposed to be lower sodium, things like that. Did you realize that they make low sodium sunflower seeds? That is a game. And actually, I take that back. 0 sodium. I haven't tried them yet. I've just ordered them, but evidently they sell them right here at Shields. That's a game changer. You know how many sunflower seeds I chewed on the football field? And sunflower seeds per serving, which is a 1/4 cup, is like almost 2,000 milligrams. It's probably why my heart almost exploded. Not gonna lie, I chewed about a bag every other day during football. So anyway, I love to share that stuff. I love to have you guys share stuff with me. So please reach out to me. Let's chat at the cocktail hour. Let's chat at the dinner. And once again, thank you very much for having me here. Thank you, Pete and Amy, for once again putting on this event. Thank you.